I have to do this. Weird. Hello, people on the other side of a screen. It's your favorite shop inhabitant Sarah here with another vehicle review. And today I have the 2021 Ford Mustang Mach-E. I like calling it a Mach-E. That first word, we will not use that for the rest of the video. By Ford calling this vehicle what they did and placing this iconic badge on the front of the vehicle is a marketing team's equivalent of clickbait, in my opinion. But that does not mean I do not like this vehicle. This Mach-E is as revolutionary to the brand as the original Mustang was back in 1964. And I think that's why they named it what they did. But why not just come out with something all brand new? Why does everything gotta be a throwback? Now on a positive note, the front of this thing is super easy to clean bugs off of because there's really no need for a traditional grille since there's no internal combustion engine. You do have these active shutters down here because there is still an AC condenser. This Mach-E right here is the premium all-wheel drive model. Is slated just below the GT. Yes, there's a GT version of the Mach-E. And there's also a performance pack as well. And it's fast, like stupid fast. These right here are 19 by 8-inch wheels that are wrapped in a 225/55 19-inch Michelin all-season tire. But what's most impressive is what's behind those wheels. These brakes are absolutely enormous with a huge 4-pot caliper. Look at the size of that thing. It is insane. And in the rear, you have a single pot caliper with just over a 12-inch rear rotor. I actually had to measure that myself. I couldn't find the specs anywhere online for the non-GT model. As far as crossovers go though, this isn't a bad looking vehicle. I really like the taillights back here, the shape of them, how it has that little flared winglet in the center of it. I wish this rear glass lifted up independently of the rear hatch. That'd be kind of nice. This right here is the portable 110 volt regular wall outlet charger here for North America. This right here, if you were to charge this battery from complete depletion, would take 95 hours. But there's also a 240 volt charger you can get for this thing, as well as a $800 additional Ford charge unit that you can put in your garage that will charge the battery from complete 0 to 100% in 10.9 hours. And then you can also do DC fast charge at the little charging stations along interstates and stuff that will go from 10 to 80% in just 45 minutes. Personally, I like the inside of my electric vehicle to look like a spaceship. And this one, in comparison to the Volkswagen ID4 I reviewed recently, looks more like a traditional car on the inside. It's a little spaceshipy with the Tesla-like 15-inch tablet display in the center. It's huge. But what I love about it is that they have this floating dial in the center for a volume knob. It's elegant looking, and I'm wondering how the hell you would ever replace that if it broke. That's crazy. Oh wow! This is a good sized back seat. There's also this giant fabric unibrow that goes across the front of the dashboard, and there's a little Bang & Olufsen logo on there, so I'm guessing there's some speakers hidden behind this thing. It's neat looking. I like the shape of the door where my arm sits in there. That's fun. This thing is, well, it's weird. There's a little hump right here for the shark fin antenna up there. The entire roof of this thing is one giant glass panel. That is really dark tinted too. There's not even a thing to slide to go across. It's just always exposed, so don't have sex in here because if you're under a building, they'll see you up on the top floor, unless you like that kind of thing. It's okay to be kinky. Bolstering test. You know what? That's pretty good. It's weird because it doesn't look like it would have a lot of bolster to it. Not bad. They are heated, as well as the steering wheel is heated as well. USB, a USB-C. This little dongle doohickey on the door to open it. It's strange looking. And it makes neat music chimes when you do things in here. Like, it should, because it sounds like the future. No heated seats back here though. There's also this really creepy set of Skynet eyeballs on the top of the steering column plastic, because it's watching you. In the name of science, it is now time to give this thing the e-beans. This has multiple drive modes. You have Whisper, which is quiet, Engage, which is engaging, and Unbridled. I think that means it's not married. Also down here, you can enable or disable your one pedal driving, which I have enabled, and also propulsion sounds. So you can actually make this thing sound like a Jetsons mobile. I'm also gonna go into settings and then driver assistance. You can disable traction control. Ready? Ooh. That's a lot of torque. You feel it in your gut. Oh geez. All right, that's quick. Yep. This thing's quick. You definitely feel it in your gut. I wish they had a launch control feature on this thing though. This would be so much faster if it had launch control. Pop. Ooh, 2 pop. Open. Whoa, is that? It almost looks like it's fabric. Nope, it's plastic. Hello, and welcome to Garage Science with Sarah. Under the hood of this 2021 Mach-E all-wheel drive premium is a storage cubby. It's actually a frunk. It's actually pretty good size too, and I like how it's got little dividers so you could put your groceries in there and not have them get tossed all over the place since this thing is a rocket. Yeah, that's kind of neat. There's an ejecto seat cuz button, and I think it's a light too. Yep. Whoa, it's doing robot things. Anyway, as far as the propulsion system of this rig goes, it has 2 permanent magnet synchronous electric motors, one in the front, one in the rear. They're completely independent of one another, and total system combined power output is 346 horsepower at ES RPM and 428 pound-feet of torque at immediately RPM all the time. Now, that's hilarious. It still has to have an emissions control tag underneath despite it being electric. Additionally, this thing has an optional $5,000 88 kilowatt hour range extender battery, which also obviously extends the range, but more importantly, it enhances the power potential. Well, that's kind of odd. Apparently they don't find it important to also check your brake fluid, because there's no way to look at the reservoir for that. Fun fact, Ford actually offers a crate motor of the Mach-E, and they call it the E-Luminator, which some of you will get that reference. I think that's kind of fun. It's under $4,000 too for that electric motor, so you can stuff it in whatever you want, like a probe. They should have called this thing the probe. Time for the braking test. No one behind me. This is gonna hurt. Ooh. That's a lot of mass that has to come to a stop. I was expecting a lot more out of these brakes. Hello, I'm back. It's now time to get this thing up in the air and look at a battery, because that's about all you're really gonna see under here. Wow, this is weird. What are these little flaps for? I have to do this. I can't not do this. What the hell is behind this little door? Weird. You're welcome, internet. I had to do this for all of you because you can't really see anything under here. It's a aluminum subframe under here, multi-link rear suspension. You can see the spring back inside there, and where the subframe bolts up to the underside of the vehicle. And back down over there, almost looks like a rear diff mount, but technically that's not what that is. No wonder this thing is so quiet to ride in. Look at these little foam panels. They have insulation in the bottom of them. Literally has the stuff on the spring bucket on the lower suspension arm. Fairly beefy axles on this thing though, and pretty beefy suspension components altogether. Most of the multi-link setup is made out of steel, where the knuckle back here is aluminum. Now up inside here, you can see part of the integrated drive module, or I guess you would call that your gearbox, or in terms of an internal combustion engine, the transmission. Since these integrated drive modules are integrated into the electric motor, it technically has two gearboxes, one for each electric motor. They're manufactured by BorgWarner for Ford. They are liquid cooled, and if you want to look in terms of the torque split front to rear, since it is all-wheel drive, technically you could have 0% front, 100% rear, 0% rear, 100% front, or 100% front, 100% rear. And this thing technically, from what I've researched, defaults to a 30-70 split, so it's predominantly rear-wheel drive most of the time. The drive module itself is capable of handling up to 4,278 Newton meters of torque, or this many pound-feet, which is crazy. You can see the underside of the Mach-E, or the skateboard as a lot of people call these things, is essentially just a giant flat floor because of the battery. There's 376 individual lithium-ion cells in that battery pack, which you see in the center of the vehicle. There's also not an exhaust system because it's a Jetsons mobile. The comes from the speakers. You like that I just did that? You're welcome. Normally where you'd have a pinch weld to jack the vehicle up from, there's a giant steel frame rail that protects the side of the battery pack on this thing. Makes it really easy to lift this car because you have those. And like I mentioned about the integrated drive modules being independent from one another, that means there's no need for a drive shaft on an electric all-wheel drive vehicle. Nor could you really put one because of the battery, but that's kind of cool. Up front, you have a McPherson strut style front suspension with an aluminum lower control arm and knuckle. Got a single lower ball joint right here and that enormous front caliper. That's a big ass 4-pot. I mean, this thing weighs almost 5,000 pounds, so it makes sense. Fairly good size anti-sway bar on here as well. You can see the entire front subframe is also aluminum on here. Hey, check that out. There's a drain plug in the center. Must be for the cooling system for those BorgWarner integrated drive modules. Hello. Ooh, I love that. There's just instant torque. No matter what speed you're already going, you just shove it and it's like you're taking off from a dead stop. It's so fun. So the whole thing with the propulsion sounds, love that. I'm so happy to see an electric car that has a simulated propulsion sound option that you can turn on like all the time, not just the slow speed one to let pedestrians know that you're backing up, you're moving in a parking lot, inside the cabin. And I like the fact that it does not sound like an internal combustion engine. It sounds like a spaceship. It's great. I wish there was more options though than just the one that they give you. Like one that actually sounds like a Jetsons mobile. You can definitely feel the weight of this thing when you're pushing it through corners because it's not a very wide wheel that's on here. I was actually surprised. It's got 225s. Kind of strange that that's all you get on this thing considering how much it weighs and how big it is. Another thing I found weird is when you have it in one pedal mode, if you let off the throttle, obviously it slows the vehicle down, but that illuminates your brake lights. So if you're not used to driving in one pedal mode and you're on the throttle, off the throttle, on the throttle constantly, your brake lights are going to be going on non-stop. So the people behind you are going to think you don't know how to drive. I've only driven a couple electric cars so far between Porsche, the Volkswagen ID4, and then this. So I don't really have a lot to compare against. Each one I've noticed though is distinctly different in its own way. And that kind of makes me excited for the electric car market over the next decade or so because they're so different than anything with an internal combustion engine in it. Just completely different, especially the VW. That one stood out to me the most as being the most future-like, I guess, on the inside. Sorry, there's some corners here. I'm trying to enjoy them. That propulsion sound. It's good stuff. Yeah, this thing's heavy. Like it goes, but also it's a crossover and it's not on a very performance-oriented tire, so I don't really want to push it too hard, but this thing is fun. I can only imagine how good the GT is. So overall, the strong points about this Mach-E is obviously the tech. This thing has got so much tech packed into it, and especially considering the price point, even before the government tax credits that these things are eligible for, I think it's excellent value when you look at what it feels like inside the cabin. It's super luxurious in here and it's fun to drive. I actually really enjoy driving this thing. As far as juice efficiency, I can't say fuel because it's electric. I would say if you're doing quick, short trips throughout the day, not driving more than maybe 30 or 40 miles, it's totally reasonable to be able to charge this thing overnight on 120 volt AC. Anything more than that, you're gonna need a 240 volt or a DC fast charge. And that's a bit of an issue, but if you got the kind of money to buy one of these vehicles, then you got the kind of money to put in the correct charging infrastructure in your own home. The last slight issue that I still see, and it's gonna take some time to solve, is the electric charging infrastructure really only exists if you live in densely populated areas or along major interstates. Where I'm at right now, there isn't a charge station within an hour's drive. That is something that's gonna take a long time to fix because they're adding more charging stations, but not in places like this, which is, I don't know how they're gonna solve that. I think what they could do is they could make a trailer you tow behind your electric car that's a giant wind turbine. And as you pull it along, the wind turbine will generate electricity. And because a trailer is heavy and there's drag from towing it, you'll then use more electricity. And I should probably shut up because I'm not an engineer and that's a terrible idea. If you guys never seen one of my car reviews before, I have multiple categories to rate and assess them. Starting with the bean score is a rating of 1 to 5 beans based on the feeling you get behind your belly button when you give it the beans. And this 2021 Mach-E all-wheel drive is getting a rating of 2.2 e-beans. I love that no matter what speed you're going, if you stab the throttle in this thing, you just instantly get the bean factor in the gut. That's a weird sentence. Anyway, next is the cookie score. There's a rating of 1 to 5 cookies based on what you get for what you spend. And this Mach-E, as this one is equipped, is getting a rating of 4.4 cookies. Now that's without the $7,500 government tax credit. If that is applied and you do get it subtracted from the price of this, I would give that 5 cookies. I think that is exceptional value considering the amount of tech that this thing has in it, obviously, because it's a fucking spaceship. But really, I think that's great value. Next is the mechanic score. It is an assessment on 1 to 5 wrenches based on how easy a vehicle is to work on. And the Mach-E is getting a rating of 4 wrenches. 4 because all in all, it's simplistic. It's not an internal combustion engine. There's really not a lot to it, but you have to know what the hell you're doing because if you don't, you'll end up microwaving yourself. Lastly is the penguin score, is assessment on 1 to 5 penguins based on how much I personally like a vehicle. And the Mach-E is getting a rating of 4 penguins. If this was the GT performance version, I would be giving it a 4.8 penguin score. I absolutely adore this thing. I know the name is kind of cringeworthy, but all in all, the piece of machinery is spot on. I really think they nailed it with the Mach-E. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you soon with another. Bye.